All right, guys, welcome back to the Keys to the Kingdom podcast. I am here today with Errol Allen. This is episode 10. So we're gonna go ahead and get right into it. Errol, can you introduce yourself to my audience?
Howdy. First of all, I'm honored to be episode number 10. That's a good number. I like it. So, for those who don't know, my name is Errol J. Allen. I am a full-time entrepreneur. I've been one since I was 19. I primarily do real estate. I also do some podcasting myself. And, that's what I'm most known for amongst other business savvy things I be into.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. All right, Alan, Errol, Allen, both good names. Errol, so why did you get into real estate?
So the reason I got into real estate is actually interesting. So
Yeah.
I came into being like discovering entrepreneurship before it was sexy. So I was doing drop shipping, Forex. I was going through the little gambit of things, trying to see what I actually liked. Because I tried school, retired from school. I did corporate. I worked corporate for 6 months, and I invited myself to leave from there. And then I was like, you know what? Let me try and work for myself. And after going through, a few other things, I fell into wholesale real estate, and I found a passion in that.
Wow. Okay. So tell us a little bit about that, right? So what was your journey with wholesaling, and how did you start? How did you start with that?
Okay, so I got into wholesaling specifically. I went to one of those, like family things where they charge like $40K to get in.
Yeah.
So I went to one of those weekend workshops, and while I was there, they was, selling the big $40K package. I didn't get that, but there was a gentleman in there who was sitting right next to me, and he was just like, "Man, these people ain't really talking about real estate. I really do this. They just, put on a show." So I was like, well, I ain't trying to drop $40K. Well, let's hear what you about. I'm like, do you teach others how to do it? He's like, yeah, here's my card. Check me out. We have meetings every Thursday. So I go to his meeting, and they actually end up charging $300 to join their mentorship. $300, $40K, not me being 19, broke, busted, and disgusted. I'll let you do the math and tell me which one sounds more attractive. So
yeah.
I obviously, even though his was 300, I still didn't join yet because I was like, well, am I really going to get? What am I really getting for $300? Again, he says he's doing this for 27 years, blah 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 blah. So he was like, well, this is what we're going to do. You can follow me around for the week, and I'll be, doing my real estate stuff. And if you like what you see, then by all means, you join then. So I followed him around for the week, and I saw everything. He went to houses, negotiating with sellers, all that. I didn't need next Thursday to come around. I joined that next day. So I got into mentorship, and then fast forward, I literally became a shadow. And what I mean by shadow, for my mentor at the time, I literally was his personal Uber driver. I told him, I'm like, hey, listen, you don't need to do no more driving because I noticed he drives to all this stuff. I'm like, you don't need to do that no more. I'm going to do it for you. But the reason I did that was because I wanted to hear the conversations, see his mannerisms, hear objections, listen and pick up on all these things that everyone else ain't going to get because they're not in the car. So I was a personal Uber driver for 6 months. I learned way more than that 6 months than anyone else probably did outside the car in that same 6 months. And then I was able to obviously close my deal for my first 90 days of just, chauffeuring him around and whatnot. So after I closed that deal, we a whole lot of stuff happened after that. But that's how I got into it.
Wow. Okay. That's really it's really intuitive, right? Like I was listening to you and like, okay, you're definitely a person who can glean information from the environment, from other people. So it's a great skill to develop.
Mm-hmm.
So now do you own real estate?
Yes.
Okay. How did you make your first purchase?
So I made my first purchase, ironically, through, the proceeds of doing real estate. So after I did my first deal, with my first year, I was able to generate $50K in wholesale commissions. Second year, I hit 6 figures, and then so on and so forth, right? So year 4 of me doing real estate, I'm like, okay, I'm getting tired of giving away all this wealth to other people. I'm seeing people make 10X, 5X on what my wholesale fee was. So I'm like, I want to be the other guy on the other side. So I made a partnership with my rehab mentor, and I told him, like, listen, I'm going to wholesale you this house, but I'm going to give it to you in exchange for you walking me through the process. So I got it under contract for $80K. I could have sold it for like $107K, but I said, I'm going to give it to you for $90K. But in exchange, I want to be mentored on how you're going to fix this house up step by step by step. And so he's like, perfect. So I did that for 2 houses, and I saw pretty much start to finish, met the contractors, built my own team off of his team. And then that's how I started getting into the process of owning my own real estate. And so when I fixed up my very first home, I fixed it up and refinanced it and then owned it and turned it into the short-term rental.
Man, man, I love that for you, man. That's really cool because that's a really like great progression of events, because what I'm noticing too is you have 2 mentors, right? You had the wholesale mentor, and then you created another relationship with a fix and flip mentor. So tell us about that. Where, how did you meet him? Because maybe, my people listening, they're like, I've never had a mentor. You know what I'm saying? So what's the mentality behind that?
So I'm big on, things happen at the right moment, right time, right place, and all that. I forgot how the saying goes, like the teacher will appear when the student is ready, right? So the way I met my rehab mentor, you're going to get a kick out of this. You familiar with Pokemon Go?
Yeah, Pokemon Go, yeah.
So, do you know, obviously earlier on, Pokemon Go was real big during COVID. People would go meet up and do all that stuff, right? Like, play Pokemon out and about in the real world, right?
Yeah. Capturing the Pokemon.
Capturing the Pokemon, yeah. So I was doing that to pass the time while still wholesaling real estate because, that's kind of what I was doing for my leisure time at that point. So I went to this place in Sandy Springs called the Prado, if you're familiar with it. And I was out there playing Pokemon Go. And then there was this older gentleman out there who was also playing Pokemon Go. We actually developed a good friendship, and we probably did like a few rounds together in terms of hey, you want to meet up here on Tuesday? I'm like, yeah. And so I actually asked him out the blue. I'm like, hey, what do you do outside of this? He said, oh, I fix and flip real estate. I'm like, what? He's like, so what do you do? I'm like, I wholesale real estate. He's like, oh, we need to be best friends. Nice, he took me to his project the next day. And I'm talking about some of the most immaculate rehab work. I mean, attention to detail and everything. He was so happy talking to me about the process more than he was talking about Pokemon Go. So I was like, oh yeah, this is someone who's really passionate about what he's doing. So obviously I added him to my buyers list. I sold him a couple of deals, and then I watched him fix up the shit houses I sold him. And after the second house, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna give you this house. I could give it to you again for $120. It's still gonna be a great deal, but I'm gonna give it to you for $90. I got an $80 because I want you to mentor me and show me how to do all these spectacular rehabs that you do.
Wow, that is so organic. That is so organic, and that's beautiful. Where it's just you were playing poker. You were in like leisure, right?
I was in leisure activities. I was not business minded at all.
so you guys listening, this is so. I would even say counterculture to a lot of the things that you hear a lot of times in entrepreneurship, where it's like grind, hustle. You got to be, working 80, 90, 120 hours a week, even though there's only 168 hours in a week. And to hear that Errol here not only was able to enjoy his winnings from wholesaling, but also enjoy his leisure time, and then organically build a relationship with a rehab mentor that then elevated him to the next level in his career is absolutely amazing. So when I hear things like that, I know that you, Errol, your thought processes, the way you look at life are different. Like, so can you tell us a little bit about like what are what's your kind of like belief around leisure, right? Because I want to hear that.
So my belief around leisure, I mean, that's an interesting question. I never got asked that before. So obviously, book definition wise, leisure is having fun, decompressing, all that stuff, right? But you're probably going to be like, oh, okay, that's not shocking. I find joy in what I do in terms of business and real estate and all that stuff. So I'm always on like it's not like, it is work. There's work being done, but it's not like mentally draining or something I'm not passionate or not wanting to do. So I'm in a headspace now where I'm doing what I like to do, not love, but like, because I have an overall passion for business, but I'm doing what I like to do and it's enjoyable for me. And then, of course, obviously, when I'm not doing that, then I can do other activities that may not pay me, but I still like to do them too, i.e. play video games, i.e., at that time, play Pokemon Go and stuff like that. So in terms of my overall belief around leisure, if you have if it gives you some fulfillment, enjoyment, then I feel like that you're enjoying a certain degree of leisure right there.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. And the reason I asked that is because your rehab mentor also has he also enjoys his leisure time, right? Because not just you, right? Because people might be looking at you and saying, well, that's Errol. But the other side of the equation is your rehab mentor, who is flipping multiple properties, is also taking time out to play Pokemon Go.
Yep.
Which is, again, counterintuitive to what most people are, they might be hearing, where you got to be working and grinding. So to hear that both of you guys, you matched like that is really fascinating. It's really cool that, he's flipping houses and then he's like, yeah, I'm going to play Pokemon Go. And then you're selling properties and wholesaling. He's like, I'm going to play Pokemon Go. So that common interest there is really cool. So now, as you bought your property, you rehabbed it. What was that experience like for you, especially working with a mentor who you already knew was doing rehab projects?
So let me give some context. So I met my rehab mentor after my second rehab. So context is definitely get a mentor before you start doing rehabs. So my first rehab I did was a shit show. I'm talking about, I had a contractor, he came in the house, and again, I'm somewhat green at this time. I have some general understanding, but if you haven't done something before, it's always going to be new, right? So I had a contractor come in. He used to work for Flip or Flop Atlanta. I had one of my wholesale deals. I got financed from a hard money lender, and the numbers checked out perfectly because it's my own wholesale deal. So at the time, the contractor's like, "Yeah, we can get this job done for $60,000." I'm like, "Okay, bet." That house did not cost $60,000 to get done over. That house cost $110,000 to get done over. But after we went through the rodeo of doing the $60,000, and towards the end, like it didn't get to the full 60. We probably gave him like 40, 50. I realized this house isn't gonna get done no more, and what's left over is not gonna happen. So we ended up firing that guy, suing him, hiring another contractor, and he got the house done correctly. And I actually ended up suing him and getting back what we invested with him, which was it was a process. But long story short, we did get back the monies we invested with him, even though he did a shoddy job on that house. So that was my nightmare first rehab.
Well, I mean, that is a nightmare, but however, you did two things I've never heard anyone say, which is a big issue in real estate, is you sued a contractor, and not only did you sue him, you were able to collect from him. And then those two things, you sued him and won, which is great, and you also collected. So how are you able to do that?
You gotta have the right legal team, man. I love my legal team. Listen, if you, can I share this plug? If I'm not sure if that matters or not, you mind?
Yeah, you can share a plug.
So if you ever get some contract troubles, reach out to the law offices of Jackson E. Oliver. That boy right there, woo! He said, listen, it's gonna cost you a little bit, but you're gonna win. You got a case. He did not lie, and he over-delivered. I had that contractor. He literally, this happened back in 2019. We settled in 2020, 2021, and he paid me all the way up until April 2024 when his last payment was due.
Wow.
And we took him to the woodshed. All I had to do was show up and shut up and let my attorney do all the work.
That's nice. So for clarity, right? Because that's obviously a higher level thing you're doing. So for my audience, and this is people who are they're new, they don't necessarily know anything. So prior to you suing that contractor, how did you have a claim to sue him?
Document everything that you do with your contractors when you do a rehab. Document the agreement, the time period, and be as detailed as possible. I was very fortunate that I had legal advice before I went into this rehab. And I said, make sure you get everything on paper, get all the draw schedules, the receipts, all that stuff. So when I did have to turn around and flip the script and sue, I had a paper trail that was as long as Peachtree Road. Like we we have no misgaps in our suit. And judge looked at that and said, "Oh yeah, you're done. Like you're paying this man."
Wow.
So yeah, document everything and be as specific as possible in that documentation, just to give like some high level stuff, not high level, but surface level stuff to have. Yeah. This is how much the house is going to cost. Okay, boom. How long is it going to take you to complete it? What's the penalty if you don't get it completed in that time period? What's the benefit if you get it completed sooner? Obviously, if you get done sooner, they should get rewarded for that. What's the material cost, labor? Make sure you get those separated. A lot of contractors like to lump it together and have material and labor on one thing. Or no, I want to know how much the material is going to cost and how much the labor is going to cost. And there's way more stuff that goes into it, but that's just some great tips to start off with that help expose a lot of things.
That's pretty smooth. So now, I mean, you said, there was a timeline in there, of course, from 2019 to 2020.
Early 2021, yeah.
Mm-hmm. 2021. Now, were you holding on to that property while you did your second flip?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was very fortunate. And again, this is just the power of relationships. Because I had such great success wholesaling real estate, that garnered a lot of attention from people wanting to invest money with me into real estate. So when I bought that first house, again, I probably don't have the typical story. When I bought that first house, I bought 4 more similar like that. And we was going to fix them up one at a time. But we bought them for so cheap. Like we bought a house, you familiar with the Pittsburgh community?
Yeah.
We bought a house for $37,000, $50,000, $60,000. Like we bought 5 of those at one time and then just fixed them up one at a time. So I learned from the first flip what not to do in the second flip, and the third flip was better than the fourth, and so on and so forth.
Wow. Okay. That's great. So when you're saying we, I'm making a jump here, but I'm assuming that this we you're referring to is other people you've wholesaled to, other buyers, other wholesalers, and then you formed a group essentially to flip these houses.
So we specifically was actually people who were getting into real estate that had money, but they didn't want to learn the business of real estate. How to fix a flip a property, how to source a property, but they want to see returns on their money, because you and I both know leaving your money in a bank account is going to generate like 2% annually, not even 2%, 0.02% annually. Yeah. So why not just take that and give it to someone who is credible, who has a track record, and then maybe make 8 to 20% of your money. And that was my quote unquote pitch when I was talking to people who didn't want to get in the business of real estate, but wanted to make their money work for them in real estate.
Wow, that is that's clever. So you guys listening, obviously Errol did his homework. He had legal advice, did his research. He had his paperwork in place, his documentations in place prior to taking money. And we also had legal counsel throughout. And I'm sure you continue to have legal counsel throughout
to this day.
your operations.
Yep.
Which is great. Which is really great. So that's pretty smooth. So now, how can I help you?
How can you help me? Let's see. I mean, I got a whole bunch of I'm not gonna give you that answer. I got tasks that can be handled, but I guess on a top level answer, sourcing deals, that's always a good thing. If we find something that makes sense, we'll obviously take it down. I'm looking for some Airbnb short-term rental opportunities in Roswell, Georgia area. And just, again, just stay plugged in, stay tapped in. I have opportunities that come up all the time.
Okay. So, on that note, plugged in, tapped in, what does that look like for you?
You can just literally shoot me a text, be like, yo, hey, man, what you got going on? Need assistance, or what you looking for at this moment? Because what I was looking for last week changed to what I'm looking for today.
Got it. Okay. That's smooth. Okay. So you guys listening, this is how people do it. This is how we build relationships. Stay tapped in. Send him a text. Find out what he needs. So now, how can you help me?
How can I help you? What do you need help with?
So I am raising capital for multifamily apartment complexes
Where?
nationwide, but
Nationwide. Okay.
specifically in Mississippi.
Mississippi. Why Mississippi?
So I did the research, and their market is a great appreciating market, um, similar to Atlanta's, and they've got very good returns on the properties there.
What's very good returns? What does that mean?
So so very good returns means you buy the deal for, let's say, 6 million.
Mm-hmm.
Once everything's completed, 2 to 5 year period, sell it for 17.
Okay, 300% return almost. Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, no, you got to factor in rehab and all that stuff. So you bought it for 6, the rehab's whatever that's going to be, and then off of that, it'll be whatever percent return.
yeah, yeah. So I need help from people who want to invest in that deal, and
So you have a deal right now that you're looking to purchase for 6 million.
correct.
Okay.
So I need help with that. I also need help with my podcast. Um, yeah, I need a host. I need a co-host, and I also have a newsletter. So I need help with someone doing the newsletter and putting out consistent newsletters.
Okay. So what would your ideal partner look like for a co-host?
For a co-host, just somebody who they can bring other people onto the show. Um, so we ask the same questions every for everybody, but then there are other specific questions where I just ask people about, hey, that's pretty interesting. That's something that I haven't heard before, or that's something that my audience, if they're new or if they're hearing a term that maybe they're not familiar with, like, maybe everyone doesn't know what rehab means. Then as the co-host, they would say, hey, assuming that the audience is brand new, let's dive in a little bit more so we can give clarity around what that specific topic is or what that specific piece of information means. So that way it's that way it's palatable, right? People get what you're saying if they're brand new or if they're experienced. And also just asking questions that are leading towards um, really leaning towards getting exposure for whoever the guest is, and then also building inroads, right? Building mutually beneficial relationships, and then putting the guest on a platform so that way, if people decide to say, hey, I want to work with Errol, for example, they know how to reach out to Errol and find out how to best tap in with Errol, even if that's not my specific niche. Like my specific niche is multifamily apartment complexes, but the other people who are viewing, they may say, hey, I want to get into tax liens. Um, Errol might be the guy for tax liens. So let me hear about tax liens. I want to get into that specifically. Or if they want to do new construction, they say, hey, I want to get into that specifically. So as a co-host, just the way that I ask my questions, where it's broad enough to where people get a good view on what someone does, but also it's some depth in there that people say, I want to reach out and talk to this person, whether on social media, email, if I want to, I haven't asked these questions yet, but if I want to get coaching from them, if I want to buy their product or course. And so just giving the guest that opportunity while at the same time developing inroads for the opportunities that are already taking place.
So top level, you need a co-host that can bring on guests, that can help facilitate or maybe educate your audience further, deeper on things that might be top. Like it'll be simple to us per se, but their audience may not know it. They need to be able to go deeper on that and also facilitate. What was the last one?
Facilitate and promote the guest. Promote
Okay.
them and their courses, products, coaches, services.
Okay. So two of those things you don't really need a co-host for, but I get you. We could talk offline. I can share with you some insights for that.
Yeah. All right, cool. So do you have a podcast, a course, or coaching you want to promote to my audience?
So yeah, I got a podcast called All Things Entrepreneur. It's pretty much where we shine the light on the blind side of entrepreneurship. And if you want to, tap in with us, you can look us up on YouTube, All Things Entrepreneur, TikTok, All Things Entrepreneur TV, Instagram, ate.experience, Facebook, All Things Entrepreneur. And the website is ateexperience.com. So me and my co-host Jessica Myers, who actually is a multifamily, she owns hotels and other business ventures as well. We run that show, and we're about almost hitting the 50 episode mark. So we're excited about that. So that's my podcast. You can tap in with that. In terms of coaching, if you want to coaching on like getting into real estate or doing specifically like short-term, mid-term rentals, because that's one of my courses. I do have a course called AMP, which is Airbnb Me Please. If you want more details about that, you can just shoot me a DM. Or if you want to get more coaching on just getting into wholesale and what have you, again, you can just shoot me a DM on like Instagram. My Instagram name is IG at Errol J. Allen.
Smooth. So, Errol, is there anything you want to speak on?
Let's see. What do I want to speak on? In terms of what specifically? That's very broad.
Yeah, just anything you want to speak on. I mean, this is a real estate podcast, but at the same time,
so then I got you. So I'm assuming that most people are looking to get into real estate. That's your audience, correct?
Yeah, either looking to get into real estate or already in real estate.
Already in real estate. Okay. So my advice to people, if I was starting off again, coming into real estate, the only few things that I would do differently is when I do a new facet of real estate, I make sure I partner with somebody on that first thing. So you can get away with it in a wholesale because you're not having to tie up capital per se. You're just pushing paperwork or signing contracts. But again, my first rehab that I told you, I would have never had to go through that long 2-year legal process if I had just partnered up with somebody who was already doing it from the jump. I was fortunate enough to meet my rehab mentor on my second, third rehab, but I could have skipped that whole nightmare altogether if I just did it from the jump. So I always look for somebody who has experience and trust but verify. I'm a big fan of ABQ, always be qualifying. So again, I have mentors that they were mentors for me at that time, but they're no longer my mentors for me for whatever the reason may be. I'm always qualifying people, and it's not like fact checking or whatnot, but just watching how they move, see if adversity comes, how they respond to it. Because again, a lot of people can be up today and down tomorrow. The business entrepreneurship, it is a little cyclical per se. So I just pay attention to, how people operate when they're at their highs and where they may be at their perceived lows. It's a very good time to learn where you can see how they respond to the world when they're at their perceived lows. So yeah, always be qualifying, trust but verify. Partner with people in the beginning that have the experience. Because real estate specifically, there's 3 things. There's money, there's experience, and there's sweat equity. More times than not, if you have 2 of the 3, you're golden. Sometimes you don't have 2 of the 3. You might be just starting off with ground zero. Where you got sweat equity, you can use that sweat equity to acquire some knowledge and then take that knowledge and then generate some funds.
Oh, that's very profound. So now, 2 questions I have for you. So when you had that issue with the contractor.
Yep.
And you found out that it wasn't going to be a $60,000 rehab. It was going to be, like you said, 110. Yep. What was your mind state? Like, what were you going through emotionally? I mean, financially, obviously. What were you like in that place?
So my thing, I take from Gary Vaynerchuk, one of the entrepreneurs. If you've heard of Gary V before, I like his philosophy when it comes to hiring and firing people. You hire slow and you fire fast. So when I realized I was getting stiff per se, I didn't give him an opportunity to, let's make it right, or how maybe you can salvage. No, you're the cancer, so I'm letting you go, and I'm bringing somebody in again. But I'm going, hire slow. I'm gonna vet you just even more scrupulous than I did the first contractor, and see what you can do. So yeah, I'm real big on hire slow, fire fast. If I see something that's not working, I'm not opposed to cutting it. I don't have qualms with cutting something that's not working. And then you ask for my overall mindset. So I came into this business knowing it was going to have its ups and downs. I just didn't know how hard the downs could be, but I knew there would be ups and downs. So I was already mentally grounded. Fortunately for me, I went on a whole content binge at age like 19 to 20, where I was just watching like Les Brown, Eric Thomas, Eric Warray, getting, my mind right, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, getting my mindset right. So when that situation did occur, my mindset was already well fortified, so I could be able to handle it and respond accordingly. I knew it wasn't going to be rectified immediately, but I knew it would get rectified.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's cool. So when you said your mentors, you always be qualified. Oh, is that what you said? Always be
Always be
qualified?
qualifying. Yes, ABQ, always be qualifying. Because sometimes a mentor might be here for a season or a reason. And you may outgrow some mentors too. Like the person that showed me how to get into real estate, do wholesaling, he's no longer my mentor today. We had a difference in things and we grew apart.
Okay. So now, what do you mean when you say, you watch people when you see them at their, you said perceived lows?
Yeah, perceived like highs and perceived lows. So what I mean is, again, this business entrepreneurship, and not just entrepreneurship, life in general, you're gonna get punched in the face. You're gonna get knocked down. Something's gonna happen. A contractor's gonna walk off some money. You might have an accident happen here or there, and you watch how those people respond to those perceived lows, because I can tell you a lot about how they may respond if you and them may have a quote unquote perceived falling out. And let me not say falling out, that's a little too extreme, but a perceived disagreement. Like, if I'm sure if you obviously are in a relationship, you don't really know that person until you see them angry, mad, or indifferent. Like you don't truly know them. In business is very similar. You don't really know them until you see how they handle a loss, how they bounce back from a oops or a mistake or a contractor stealing or a burglarized home. Like I pay very close attention to see how people respond to those losses and lessons. That's all I mean.
That's smooth. Okay, that's smooth. So, in that, and to my audience, you guys, this is very high level in the sense of maturity, because you're obviously having a hard conversation, whether it's with a mentor or a contractor, when you're saying, hey, contractor, I'm going to fire you, or you're the cancer, you got to go. So how do you approach having those hard conversations with people who I'm assuming, for lack of a better term, don't meet your standards, or if you just, like you say, just grow apart? What's that like?
So high level, I approach it with grounded facts. Like, hey, this situation, that situation, that situation. I may not necessarily agree with it, but it happened the way it happened, and because it happened the way it is, I feel like it may not be best for us to continue this working relationship. So I think it's best we just go our part in ways today. Like, and again, the first contractor I hired versus my second GC I hired, like in the 5-6 years of me rehabbing homes, I went through 3 GCs. I had the very first GC that lasted with me for one house, and then that second GC that came in and cleaned up his mess. Then we had a fallout too about 2 years later, and then my third GC I hired, and then we went for another year and some change. We had a disagreement, and again, these aren't like only the most. I would say the first one and the third one were very civil, like we had to get legal involved. But the second one, it was a mutual understanding. We went our separate ways.
Cool. Yeah, guys. So pay attention to what Errol is saying, because in this business, you are going to work with a lot of people.
Yep.
When things are aligned, they're aligned. And when things are not aligned, be prepared to have that conversation, as Errol has already instructed you on how to have that conversation, because you want to make sure you keep focused on what your goal is. If you're flipping houses.
And let me elaborate just a little bit, because I actually ironically talked about this in one of my podcast episodes. Me and my business partner, with our third contractor falling out, the way that happened, it could have been rectified faster. What do I mean? So obviously I told you I brought on partners and I got, a little operation going on when it comes to my real estate activities. So this specific GC, that was the most recent one we fired. I've been wanting to fire him probably 2 months, 3 months. I was sitting on that. But again, I had my partner who was co-owner of this specific property with me. And his standpoint was, well, there is progress happening. Let's, see how it turns out, blah, blah, blah. And again, we was in a co-owned relationship. So we co-owned the house and we agreed to hire this specific GC for that house. And I wanted to be gone for 90 days. He wanted to bide it and see what happens. And ultimately, when it all came out and we look back on it, because we had a reflection meeting about it, he was like, you was right. I was, we should have fired him sooner. We could have got further faster. And I'm like, sometimes, and again, ain't nothing wrong with my business partner's decision. He was speaking from his experiences and things that led him to move the way he moved. But it's just knowing who you're working with, understanding the people you work with, their temperaments and what have you. So yeah, this is a very people-oriented business. And the faster you can learn how to understand and work with people of all character types, the better.
Wow, you guys listen. I hope you're taking notes. I'm definitely taking notes. So, because that's some very, very, he's dropping some gems right now. You're saying some quality information. So make sure you take notes on this, because these things, these situations he's describing, they may come up in your investing career. So the fact that you're already prepared and knowledgeable about how to handle these situations before you get to this situation is great. It's like a saying of mine, or not mine really, but a saying I like to use is, an ounce of prevention is worth 1,000,000 pounds of cure. So make sure to take notes and just take these lessons to heart. Wow. Okay. Yeah. This is very insightful. So now all right. So you and your co-owner, of that property, you guys said you had a reflection meeting, right?
Yep.
I've, again, never heard of that before. Can you explain to my audience what that means? Why do you use that? And if there's any other, like, prior to the reflection meetings, or like any sort of meetings leading up to that reflection that are going on?
Yeah. So when I take on a house, again, because there's houses that I own 100% outright, and there's houses that I may own with a partner who may have brought the funds to do the deal, and that justifies their equity share. So this specific house was a house that had an equity share. Now, when we did the house, before we even hired the GC, we had, okay, what do we want to do with this house? Intro meeting per se. What is our end goal? What do we want to do with this? We both agree we want to fix it and flip it. We analyze the numbers. Okay, cool. Now that we know we're going to fix and flip, sell it, what's the next thing? Well, let's get the budget going. Well, how much it's going to cost, blah, blah, blah. So we got 3 contractors. They gave us 3 estimates, and we went with contractor number 2, who was the third GC that we fired. He was not the cheapest estimate, nor was he the highest estimate. He was the middle ground one. So, and then obviously he had a faster timetable and, a few other factors. So we chose to go with him. And then as we're going through the house, at stages of the house, I'm trying to make sure we're on time. Are we going to be able to do it in the 8 months he says it's going to take to do this house over? And when it's all said and done, normally when we sell the house or we close on it, whichever way, after that, we'd have a sit-down meeting, a reflection meeting, and see what could we have done better throughout this whole process? What could we have done to prevent the headaches we've encountered throughout this whole process? And we talk it out. And so that meeting happened, obviously, after we fired that GC and then sold the house. And he was like, yeah. And he admitted to me, he's like, yeah, we should have went with your gut. You said we should let him go 2 months in advance, but I lingered it, and you kind of allowed me to grow and, experience that versus just coming in and putting Thor's hammer down saying, yo, it's a dictatorship, not a democracy. So now I know going forward, if this situation happens again, hire slow, fire fast. There's some things that you can teach, but there's other things that you just need to experience. And that was a thing that I already experienced because I had my first rehab fail, but he never had a rehab fail go left before. So we had to experience that to see, oh, okay, now I know going forward, when I see this thing happening, We got to cut it out. Like, boom.
Yeah. That's it's powerful. That's powerful. So now you said you finished the house, you fired the contractor. Let me get my words together. Were you just hiring that contractor for that one house, or were you
Great
doing
question.
multiple houses?
Great question. So yeah, we had a 3-house package for him. But again, we do houses in stages. So we get through this house first, then we'll go do that house. So he got through the first house. Well, he didn't get through it, but he got to the end stage of the first house, and we fired him and went with somebody else for the second house and the third house. So the reason I like to do that, and again, not everybody may be in a position to do that. So I'm not saying, I got to get 3 houses so I can do it like Errol does. No, start with what you got and where you're at. But for me, at this time, I had 3 houses. And the reason I do that is because now you can see bulk price is not going to be a factor, because you will charge me to do a house. A GC typically charges, not typically, but approximately maybe 15 to 20, 25% of what the rehab budget is going to be. So that'll be their GC fee, right? So let's just say the rehab budget was 100 grand. Well, the GC can charge worst case 25 grand, best case 15 grand. But if I have 3 houses and he knows I got 3 houses, he knows after this one, he's got more work right after it, literally on the cusp of finishing this one, you can slide right on into the second one. He might be more inclined to do that 15% rate instead of a 25% rate. And that goes with all trades, my electricians, my plumbers, all of them. If they know that we have multiple houses, they're going to cut their labor costs because they know there's more guaranteed work around the corner.
Yeah.
And that also allows them to do good and timely work as well, too. Because if you do good work, but you're slow as hell, ain't no way how I'm going to have you do my next house and hold us up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of incentivized things that happen by just coming from a position of, hey, I'm not here for this one house. I have many houses. What are you here for? You here to do just one house or many houses with us? And that's why we do get some preferred pricings and breaks. And again, it's the law of numbers. If I come in with one house, you're going to charge me the most you can because it's hit it and quit it. But I come in with 3, you're going to work with me.
Yeah, it's clever negotiating. Yeah, it definitely is. Bulk pricing, packaging. Okay, that's pretty smooth. That's very savvy. So yeah, I like that.
Even with your multifamily asset, I'm assuming it's got more than 10 doors. Your HVAC guy's not going to charge it for the price of 1. They're going to charge you for the bulk price of 10.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's how. I wouldn't even. You're right. I wouldn't even go in there asking for the regular price. I need the bulk price.
Now you're gonna give me what the bulk pricing is, because this is a bulk job.
Exactly. So now let me think, because I know there's a lot of good stuff for my audience to learn in there, especially you doing partnerships with co-owning, learning through the situation, having space for your partner to learn through the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I think a key thing you said was certain things you do have to experience. At least for me, it was a key thing. My audience, it might not be. Hopefully, you guys listening, your experience is watching this podcast, and that's the experience you need to then decide, I'm either going to form a partnership or go out on my own, or this is the experience I need to be successful in building my real estate portfolio and building my rehab career or my wholesaling career, whichever you may choose, or both. So now, Errol, what are your goals?
Well, as I look at my goal sheet on my wall, which one do you want? The business goals, the professional goals, the spiritual goals, the personal goals? I got goals. So yeah. I just give you one of each. I'll give you one of each.
I like that. I mean, hold on. Let me just say, you guys, honestly, it sounds like Errol's read the 7 Habits of the Highly Effective People. Like, You know what I'm saying? Like, he has goals in areas of his life, right? And that's critical, right? That's critical to your success. And the reason I say that is, in my own experience, um, having a goal is more important than money, because the goal, and I mean, the reason I juxtapose it like that is because a lot of times people get into real estate because they want to make a lot of money, which you can. But the caveat to that is, a lot of times people are this is a passionate industry. People are very, how do I say this? They're just not concrete enough, right? Ambition is great, passion is great, but you need some direction. You need to harness that energy. And so having a goal focuses your mind, because in my own experience, making large sums of money, a lot of times it can lead you to stop focusing on your goal and focusing on enjoying the money, which is, there's space and time. You can make space and time for that. But the lesson, or at least the lesson that I understand now, is that when you hit your goal, immediately set a new goal and continue to do that forever. Because otherwise it's like you just kind of, you spiral out, or you crash out, or go ahead, Errol.
If you aren't growing, you're dying, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So if you guys hit your goal, like let's say your goal is to flip a house, you go and flip that house, and then you don't set another goal. Now you might lose the money, or you might squander the money. You might, like Errol described, you're not growing, so you're dying. Therefore, it's going to put you in a place to where all the groundwork that you had to do to get that first house, you may have to go back and redo that groundwork over again if you want to
Never
get to
lose
your
momentum.
second. Excuse me?
I said never lose momentum. Like,
yeah, yes.
And as you guys go through your entrepreneurship career, real estate career, you'll understand what I mean. There's gonna come a time, like imagine this analogy, like you're pushing a boulder, and you're pushing this boulder. It's a very heavy boulder, but over time, you take one step, you're good, it's moving now. And then a little bit more. Now you took 2 steps, but it was a lot shorter time than it took you to take that first step. And then eventually you're just rolling that boulder, and it's just moving. You're moving with it. And eventually you could ease up on the pressure it took to initially push that boulder. Why? Because you exert enough work, force, consistency to get it in motion. And it might even get to a point where you could take your hands off the boulder and it'll keep on rolling because of that initial push, momentum, consistency you put into it. My thing is, once you realize that boulder, and this boulder can be your business, it could be real estate, it could be your job, it could be your marriage. Once you realize that boulder is in momentum, do not take your foot off the gas. That is where you can compound, and you can go from 2x to 10x rather quickly because you're already in momentum. An example would be when I was starting off of wholesaling. When I got my first house under contract, it took me 90 days to get my first house under contract. It took me 2 weeks to get my second house under contract. And then it took me another 2 weeks to get my third house under contract. And then by the end of that year, I had generated $50,000 in net profits of wholesale commissions. I did not take my foot off the gas going into year number 2. Year number 2, I'm doubling down. I brought my friends on board. I taught them the game, and now we're all coming at it. And that's what led to a 6-figure year, and so on and so forth. Because I could have rested on my laurels, because again, I had made $50,000. I was already, ironically, the goal was for me to make $50,000 because I had $50,000 worth of student loan and credit card debt. So that was why I wanted to make $50,000.
Nice.
So when I hit that goal. Yeah, when I hit that goal, I'm at 0, but I didn't say, okay, I'm at 0. Let's go. I'm like, no, let's capitalize now. Let's ride off the momentum of what it took us to get here and really 10x it. That's what we did.
Man, I'm gonna add to what you're saying, guys, because right now we're like, you guys listening. This is us building, right? Each one teach one, and as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. So this great concept that my a friend of mine came up with is that when your momentum is bad, right? Like you said, like that boulder, right? And this is more of like a quantum physics type of thing, like speed of light, light being light being a wave and particle.
Yes.
So you guys listening, don't get lost in the sauce. Like I'm just giving you the concept. The point is about momentum and position. So on the flip side, the negative side, as my friend was telling us to me, when your momentum is bad, you focus on your position, right? And so I'm gonna just give it to you. When your momentum is bad, you focus on your position. When your position is bad, you focus on your momentum. And so to give clarity to this, I have a friend of mine. He was the manager of a storage unit facility. It's like a 100-unit storage facility. He doesn't have any bills. All his bills are taken care of, but he's not growing. So he's in a great position. Got a nice house, nice car, everything's paid for, got a great job, etc. But his momentum is not there. It's like he's not growing. The relationship with his wife is stagnating. He doesn't feel like he's achieving anything, and it's making him depressed. Like so much so that it was 10 o'clock in the morning. He's already drunk. And so his position was great, but his momentum, he had no momentum, and so it was hurting him. Whereas there's some people who their momentum is great, right? Like take for instance you, Errol, in your story, you got your first deal in 90 days, second deal 2 weeks, third deal another 2 weeks. Momentum. However, your position at that time was $50,000 in student loan debt, right? So, and thank you for being transparent about that, because it makes this example a lot easier to convey. So your momentum was great, but your position was not a great position to be in. However, when you got into a better position, you said, hey, let me not lay off the momentum, let me go further. And so what I've grown in understanding is that you never want to lose momentum. And you also always be increasing your position. And so that way you're able to, and I look at it like exponential, right? Like the speed of light, right? So E equals MC squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light. Your mass is your position. Speed of light is your momentum. If you can increase both of them, you can increase your momentum and your position. You're moving at the speed of light, as I like to say. So I wanted to give that to you because I love what you're saying. I mean, you're adding, great things to my audience. So I just wanted to give like the flip side of it: never lose momentum, but also never lose position. Increase position and increase momentum. You do both. To me, that's quantum. To me, that's exponential. So yeah, I'd love to hear whatever goals you have to share, or would like to share rather.
And I got you. And actually, as you were saying that actually provoked a thought for me that I want to share with you guys, because I know we didn't get too much about my beginnings. I mean, we talked about my getting started and all that stuff, but you might see me today and be like, wow, this guy's got houses, contractors, deals, blah, blah, blah. But let me just share ground zero so you guys can understand that this can be you too. I'm nobody special. I'm just somebody who took the initiative to do the work. So my starting point, my day one of my real estate investing career, I was 19 years old. I was $50,000 in student loan debt and credit card debt. I had a 590 credit score. I had a 2002 side review that was constantly on F, and F stood for faith, not full. That was my starting point. I lived with my father. I was doing this under the roof of my dad. This was not an ideal starting point to launch a business or anything, but I had determination. I had the desire to want more and better for myself, and went out there and followed through with my actions. So I know there might be somebody right now who might be able to relate and be like, yo, I'm probably living with my dad right now. My credit is not the best right now. I do still got those student loans from Sally Mae and what have you. You can start today right now of what you got. You just got to have the desire to follow through, the dedication, consistency to make it happen. So my goals. I'm giving you my 2024 goals because I'm actually going to do my 2025 goals on December 15th. By the way, I schedule when I make my goals for the next year. That's another thing. But anywho, so one of my goals for my personal category was to lose 30 pounds. So again, my philosophy is I want to be untouchable per se. What do I mean by that? I don't want to have no chinks in my armor. You might be having good success with your money. You might have great spiritual stuff going on. How's your health? Like, again, I want to be that across all boards. You can't tell me that he ain't covering his business. He ain't taking care of what needs to be taken care of. So at the top of the year, I was a little heavy. I ain't gonna lie, a little hefty, you know? Again, money is good, relationships good, spiritual is good, family's good, but the health ain't great. I was 298 pounds. Now I'm at 270 pounds currently today, right now. So I got to just drop 2 more pounds to hit my goal, and I'll be good for the year. So
100%, man. That's water weight.
Yeah, we got a couple more weeks. We good. I get it handled. So that's one of my personal goals. One of my professional goals was to acquire 4 more short-term rentals. I did that. I actually did 5. So I'm happy about that. I normally do 1 a quarter. So boom, I'm good there. One of my spiritual goals was to build 3 to 5. Actually, well, I'll give you both of them, but one of them was to build 3 to 5 meaningful relationships. And another one was a list of 20 audiobooks, and then another one was to read 10 books. I did kind of slacked on the 10 books. I'm not going to lie to you, but I did list the 20 audiobooks, and I did build 3 meaningful relationships minimum for the year to come so far. So again, these goals don't have to be your goals. I didn't even give you like the, acquire the doors and all that stuff. I just gave you some of the lower ones because I don't want people to be like overwhelmed, like, oh my God, I got enough. You can start with where you are, what you got, instead of going to just do 2x or 5x of where you're at right now.
Awesome. So I'll let you know. You can read my book. It's called Simple Taste, Only the Best. It's a short read, so it'll help you
cover my 10 books.
Help you cover your 10 books. It's on a link in my bio in my Instagram, but I'll email it to you so you can. I'll help you check that off your list. And then so what projects are you working on currently?
So my main focus right now, I got the STR, short-term, midterm rental business going right now. No complaints there. I'm more focused on building out the podcast. I still got real estate going on in the background, but I want to build more of a digital presence, an online presence, and, let people know about who I am and what I do, because I don't want to be the best kept secret. That's something one of my mentors told me early on. You don't want to be the best kept secret. And right now, you're the best kept secret, Errol. So I'm working on revamping that and really getting myself more out there. So that's going to be a bigger focus on my 2025 goals, is to get more exposure and let the world know who is Errol.
Wow. That is you do it. I mean you've done every other thing, so I'm certain you will do that as well.
We'll get it handled.
Yeah, and you guys, I'm saying that because a lot of times, from my own experience, a lot of times you just need that encouragement. You need that boost. You need that, and when I say boost, I mean you need that person who's going to give you self-esteem to say keep going, or who's going to say, hey, you're on the right path. Because I'm like, listening to you, Errol, like you have hit every other goal. So, and those are the facts. So I'm sure you will get more exposure on your next goal for your project you're working on currently, and not become the best kept secret, and redefine what that means for you. So you guys, make sure to follow Errol on his Instagram. Definitely, let's get the name of that podcast one more time.
All Things Entrepreneur.
All Things Entrepreneur.
Yep, All Things Entrepreneur. You can Google it, YouTube it. The Instagram is ATE Experience. The website is ateexperience.com. TikTok, All Things Entrepreneur TV. Facebook, All Things Entrepreneur. So yeah.
And then if people want to if people want to reach out to you or connect with you, or how do they do that?
I would say just connect with me on my socials. You can reach out to me. My Instagram DM is the best way. I ain't gonna lie. Like Instagram DM be making a lot of people some money when it comes to talking with me. So if you reach out to my DMs on Instagram at Errol J Allen, shoot me a DM what you're looking to. I literally like start off my day by responding to some messages and checking my DMs. So that is the best efficient way to reach out to me. Yeah, you can reach out to me on my sites too, but I just tell you reach out in the DM and then we can see where you're trying to go from there.
Cool. So this has been a great episode number 10. Yeah, like you guys listen back to it, tap into all of Errol's resources, get the experience. I mean, this is what the podcast is for, to make you guys, really to make you guys into us. Like, so I want you guys listen. I want one day you guys to come out of my audience and then be up here and I'm interviewing you, and you're saying, oh yeah, I took your advice, or I listened to your guests and now I'm successful, or I hit my goals in real estate. So the idea is to cut the learning curve down, because we need more people. Rather, I know I need more people that I want to do business with. And if I can be an impact and be of service to you guys, that's a great thing for me. It's a win for you. And so, yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Now that this is episode 10, the other 4 episodes that I have not released are going to be released very soon. So look for that. And then I will see you guys on the next one. All right.
Even you. If not when, now. Oh, not now, then when. Ooh, messed that up. Anywho.
All right. Cool. Recording.